experiment with this for a period of time. I've experimented with it as well.
Yeah.
Intermittent fasting, or we like to refer to it, abbreviated as IF. Can you
Yeah.
explain to everyone what it is exactly?
Yeah. With intermittent fasting, it's a period of time of you are not eating food, and then you eat food. That's
Hmm.
pretty much what it is. Um, I didn't know much about it until 2010. I know you and I know John Berardi, JB for short. He's the founder of Precision Nutrition, co-founder, and he was the 5 to 6 meal a day guy. So I was training with him one day at Gold's in Long Beach, and we were just chatting. I'm like, John, what's up? What have you been doing? And we were just chatting. He's like, I'm fasting. I'm like, oh, you're just fasting for a couple days, And he's like, no, I'm fasting every day. I've been doing that for the last 6 months. I'm like, what are you talking about? And so we just start talking. And then so it got me thinking, he goes, Rob, just give it a try. Like we're all professional dieters in one way. Um, so I've been messing around since 2010. And, I think for me, it just works with my schedule at this moment in time. And then sometimes I'll just be eating breakfast, you know. But I think, there's, because it's so popular, there's more research coming out on it. And so there's some research saying, yes, it does work. Some research says it doesn't. But I think it can be a tool. I think everything can become a tool. So I think, like, if I want to drop body fat really fast and I don't really care about, my strength or anything, but I just like purely want to lose fat, I'll just go ketogenic diet and intermittent fast.
Mm.
Totally. I can do that.
But you're
Now,
also a different breed, Rob. I mean, think about this. I mean, you are
oh
someone
yeah,
that's going to keep, like, if we look at intermittent fasting or we even look at the ketogenic diet, you're someone that understands the components of these diets. And with IF, yes, you are fasting for, roughly 16 hours, right? I mean, that's the math. I mean,
right.
there's different breakdowns of it, but I think
Yep.
the true IF is 16 hours. And in that next 8 hour span, you're trying to get your nutrition in, which is where I find a lot of people below it, right? They
Right.
might, it's time for them to eat and they have a protein bar. And then they're
Hmm.
having, a handful of almonds and an apple. And they're like, I'm eating really healthy. And then dinner comes around, their blood sugar levels off. They might have a
Yeah.
vodka or two, and they're cheating, having a little taste of their kids' food, or they're out at Smith and Walensky's when we used to go to dinner for corporate events, and they're
Yeah.
maybe making poor choices. And that is, that's where I think a lot of people go wrong. You're not going to make those mistakes.
No, and I think that brings up a really good point. And so I normally tell people with intermittent fasting, what's really important is they have good baseline eating habits to begin with. So if you're the type of person that doesn't like vegetables and you don't eat much protein, you're going to eat like the person that you just described, having a bar to break your fast and then having a little knick-knack snacks or whichever. And that's not the ideal way to break the fast. Like,
Mhm.
you have to have good established eating habits. Otherwise, once you break the fast because you're so hungry, you basically eat whatever's in front of you. Typically, that's what happens. And then people go, "Oh, it doesn't work because I did it and, I didn't lose weight." And again, most people are using this as a try to using a tool to lose weight. And I've seen it for some people, they don't notice anything. For other people, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is like a miracle." You know what I mean?
When
But
I would jump on fasting, I definitely felt an improvement in brain function. Like I felt
Mhm.
that there was a period of time where, when you get into the monotony of eating and it's just months are going
Yeah.
by and you have cold winters. And I remember for a period of time, I would wake up and not eat and go to work and train. And I'm walking around and I'm like, I don't need caffeine and I'm alert and I feel good. And it was
Yeah.
just a much different, it was a
Yeah.
much
And
different.
yeah, and it's a break, right? Like, the blood flow is not in your stomach, and the blood flow is allowed to go to your brain, right? So that's why I tell people, when you're eating, hopefully you're watching the live and you're not eating because a lot of your blood is going to your eyes because what you're looking at, because we don't realize that a lot of the blood flow is prioritized to your eyes versus your stomach if
Mhm.
the body has to choose. And so that's why I compromise your digestive system. But yeah, I'd say that would be one thing you have to be aware of with intermittent fasting. Um, and like you said, there's all sorts of different variations: 16/8, 20/24, or 24. Um, but the other thing to really be aware of, and this is when you have to be careful whether you're deciding, oh, should I go on IF or not, is if you have any mood disorders. And when I'm talking about mood disorders, I'm talking about people with, not, severe depression, but slight depression. They kind of notice that. They notice, they're anxious all the time. Those are the times you want to be careful of. And I just point to a study just recently they did in 2019 in Japan, and they looked at all these different people, and they looked at their mood disorder and slight depression, and they looked at the more that people they had one I think they had a breakfast of once a week versus people that had 5 to 6 times a week. They had much more symptoms in terms of slight depression.
Mm.
And so if people are having those struggles, or if they're on an SSRI, antidepressant, that's where I say, hey, I go, do not even think about it. Like, you need to eat breakfast, and stabilize your blood sugar, so that you can help optimize your mood.
When you would break, because I know to this day you fast a lot, but you also
Hmm.
have breakfast. Do you feel a difference in energy levels if you turn around and say you have a PFF breakfast, or do you feel any better, or do you not really notice anything?
For me, I don't notice too much. Like, I've done it where I've eaten before I train. Like today, I had to take some other phone calls, and then so I had a break, so I ate, and then after I finish our call, I'm gonna go train today. But normally, what I end up doing is I'll usually see a few clients, or I'll be on FaceTime and with with clients, and then I'll usually train, and then I'll break my fast after training. Or I mean, technically, I'll take amino acids during training, so that'll be kind of like a fast,
That
breaking
was
the
my
fast
next question.
in a way.
Does that count as breaking your fast?
Um, I would say, I mean, if you're really like you're a purist, then that means you're not drinking coffee and you're only drinking water, right?
Right, right,
I drink coffee in the
sure,
morning,
right.
so I'm not a purist.
Yeah, but
um,
these are no calorie items anyway. I mean, this is
yeah,
just a
no calorie
stimulant,
items.
and
So I technically say, okay, yeah, if you're gonna have amino acids,
so would
technically
I.
you're breaking your fast. And some people say, oh, you can do the amino acids in the morning or whatever, and it's not technically food. It is calories, right? So you are breaking the fast, in a way. Um, but but yeah, I mean, I for me, I don't. I feel like for some things I recommend for clients and for my athletes and things like that, they're like, oh my god, like amino acids helped me so much, or this plan you put me on helped me so much, and I'll do them, and I notice marginal differences, not huge differences. Um, but the thing I'll tell you is if I noticed that if I have not eaten enough calories, that after dinner I'm hankering around for snacks, and like I'm maybe craving some sugar or whichever. So that I do have to be cognizant of, is making sure that I eat enough. Um, the problem with intermittent fasting, especially for the guys that are very active, is that it's almost like your body gets used to less food,
Mm.
and so you don't have an appetite. And so if that becomes an issue, then you have to be very, very careful, especially for guys that are trying to keep weight on, or they need to put up weight on. And then sports and everything else with athletes, you have to be careful with IF. I don't recommend that. I don't purposely ever recommend any of my athletes go on IF unless they're in the off season. They're curious, they want to try it out. Then I'll say, okay, that's fine. I'll guide them and how to do an intermittent fasting program.
So I'm going to ask a question. It's probably a little bit of a weird question, and
Hmm.
but I'm always from the school about when I'm talking about putting on muscle. I just want to be clear. I'm not referring to someone who's trying to get bigger. Getting bigger and putting on muscle for me are two different things. They're just like, yes, you could put on 5 pounds of muscle in a year, which I think is exceptional, but you could still stay the same weight technically. So when I'm talking to someone about putting on muscle, I'm not talking about being bigger. But shouldn't we all, as human beings, as we're all aging and we're all losing muscle, shouldn't we all be trying to put muscle on? And you know, with more muscle, we burn more body fat. So doing things like intermittent fasting or the ketogenic diet, if not done by a professional or someone who knows what they're doing in reference to their nutrition and training, I mean, I'd say 9 out of 10 times, most people are probably losing some muscle on this diet, correct?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess in theory, we could say that unless, they were pretty anal about, okay, I'm going to check my body composition and, and they kind of monitor as they go along to make sure that they're maintaining muscle mass, as they're getting older. Because you're right. I mean, after the age of 20, things go downhill.
Mm.
I mean, literally, like we're talking DHEA, testosterone, estrogen for females, that sort of thing. So, it is something that people have to be aware of. And the only way to do that is to document it, right? Like if you're going to do these things and you're like, you want to make sure, then go get a body fat test, at your gym. What it is, I mean, obviously doing, bod pod DEXA scan would be the best,
Mhm.
but I still use an old school 9 cent skin fold with a harping and
Yep.
caliber,
Yep.
because like at least it's a baseline and I'm the same person doing the test, so I can kind of monitor progress as we go along with an athlete or client.